Hey everybody, how you doing? If you clicked on this video, you might be an RLCS SSA fan, you might just be a Rocket League esports fan, or you're interested in what's going on in the Sub-Saharan Africa region for RLCS 2025. My name's Pyro. I'm this guy on the main event broadcast, the second one, and I've been covering SSA since it first got added to the esports circuit back in 2021. This is the fourth season now that we're on. And I thought it would be good to catch people up to speed. I have a lot of people in my Twitch community and Rocket League community that love Rocket League esports, but don't know a lot about SSA. And we have one of the most unique storylines in this region. So I can't start from the beginning. That'd take too long. But we're going to start from last season and work our way up all the way to now and power rank actually every team after the first open, the first event that we had already this season. Next regional already in a week. So let's start with where we ended last season, and that was what was known as the Spanish Inquisition. Okay, you've probably heard about it already. There we go, that works. But Europeans are playing in SSA. They are very interested in the prize money, the chance to travel and compete, and maybe even go to the major. Well, that's what three Spaniards did. Team Mobula was their name in the final split of last season. VK Salen led this team with Leoro and Rubix, and three Spaniards represented Sub-Saharan Africa at the major in London. You can imagine that that sounds kind of odd, kind of different, and people had differing opinions on this. Skill Steel, an avid spokesperson for the region, a South African. He's got championships under his belt in the first few seasons of the esport, and he says you can rock all the green and gold, of course, of the South African flag that you won. You're not representing SSA at the major. EU is taking 5 teams to London. The current coach of Limitless, who is the best local team of the region right now, quotes, "The best players of a minor region deserve to be represented, but the average players of the best regions do not." So kind of throwing shots to Spaniards, say, yeah, you're beating our team, but you're also just kind of, you can't do it in your own region. What are you doing it here for? But you also have players within the region. Olympics a pro there. He says, congrats, guys. I know the region is in two minds about this, but well done, and go put in some work. So some people are a little more welcoming of the imports, and I'd say largely most people are welcoming of the import situation. Without the restrictions, people understand the situation, and as long as you have a good attitude about it, most people are welcoming about it this season. There's a lot of import teams actually, but the problem was their attitude. Some of the players, in particular VK Salen, at all times didn't have the best attitude toward the SSA players, and that's where the animosity kind of stems from. You'll see that a quote tweet I had at the end of last season says, "This post is unavailable." Well, this was some choice words that VK Salen had for the SSA region, and you can read what I said here, you cannot. The point is, the post is deleted for a reason. It caught a lot of community attention, and not a lot of people were fond of this Team Mobula, this VK Salen team, who came in with kind of a bad attitude and took the major spot. I mean, but that's what happened, right? And they went to the major. They lost. You can see the results right here. Got swept, almost got swept by Twisted Minds. They say, sorry to all the Twitter fans, we'll be back stronger. A few things I want to point out about this after VK Salen and his team took the L. What is this photo? What? I don't even know. I don't even know what I'm looking at. This is truly something else. And what is this keyboard mouse combination? But one more thing I really want to point out. Check the emoji at the end here. It's the world emoji, but the Australia world emoji. What VK Salen and Mobula said was that, hey, you know, we're going to compete in SSA, but next season, we're going to be moving. We're not competing in SSA anymore. And so after this major, people thought, well, okay, you know, this was a rough patch for the region, but it might end here. VK Salen is going to compete in another region. The import situation may just die down. Maybe some import restrictions will be put in place, and, you know, we can kind of move on from this rough patch. The exact opposite happened. This is the top 16 from this first open in RLCS 2025. 0 import restrictions were put in place. many more imports gathered in the region. And to top it all off, VK Salen didn't leave. He's still here, right? And as an analyst of the region, personally, I like to just objectively review these teams, how good they are, how they match up against each other. But this storyline is kind of inescapable as well, because it's what created the buzz about the region in the first place, what gathered so many eyes to this storyline. So they're still here. Many import teams are still here. You can see a nationality breakdown here where it's still a majority South African, which is where most players are competing from the SSA region. You also have a French territory owned named Reunion Island, where a couple people come from in top 16. That includes Wilu, but others are there as well. But yeah, it's mostly Europe. It's mostly Spaniards, mostly Europe. You have a couple North Africans, a couple Saudis, but it's mostly Europe. Here's a good breakdown of the top 16 in terms of the region. This was done by ACGL_alpha on Twitch. This is where the main broadcasts are presented. Go follow them. But you can see the breakdown here. The point is, it's about 35% SSA, all the way from top 32 to top 16 to even the top 8. I mean, let's talk about how this event actually went, if my Liquipedia wants to load. Okay, Liquipedia wasn't being helpful, but I got it to open here. Open number 1 of SSA. It all went down to about 30%, 40% of SSA, oh, even down to the top 4. Here's a spoiler alert. Limitless were the only SSA team to make it to the top 4. They even got to the championship final based on a Game 7 overtime thriller win against Hay. This one I was casting. You just have to see how it ended.
Dangerous, but Revezi, that first touch too heavy-handed. Couldn't follow up with a second. Instead, it's Snowy for the shot. Bang! And behind the ball is Karka. They've delivered the goal. It's Limitless to the grand finals. And hey, with Riz, you can go work on your game because you're gone.
Oh my word.
I just like hearing Greybeard yell bang at the end there. I mean, chat was going insane. There were a lot of fans of this Hey with Riz team that wanted to see the Spaniards cook Limitless out of the bracket, failed to do so. A lot of SSA fans were happy to see Limitless go to the finals, but we're probably unhappy to see Limitless do nothing with that spot. Now, listen, I have taken a look at this grand finals where Limitless scored only one singular goal very closely. I have another video coming out breaking down exactly how Maestros dismantled the heck out of Limitless and what realistically was just Limitless not playing to the potential that they truly have. Keep an eye out for that video. But the point is, Limitless almost got perfect swept in the grand finals. This was not a good look for them. This is a great look for the players of the Maestros. VK Salen's team. He is back. He picked up a new player from Astronic Esports and Torres. So now it's him, Torres, and Leoro. And they totally dismantled them. The Maestros, who are now, by the way, competing on South African ping. They're competing in Cape Town. They have probably better ping than anybody that's competing in the region, which is insane. Ball chasing report further shows how Limitless just did not contend well with the Maestros. We have average shots here. Maestros up to 9 a game. Limitless under 4 a game. Shooting percentage, of course, when you score only 1 goal in the series is not going to look good. 6.5% versus the 32, which is pretty solid. It just wasn't a good look. Possession was pretty weak as well, but you get the point. This all breaks down into the current state of the scene, that the imports are still on the rise, the imports are still on top, and it is up to the locals still to show off, still to prove that they can represent their own country, even with the imports, even with some of the imports playing in the region. So what does that mean in terms of power rankings? Well, this is the exciting part of the video. This is what I really wanted to get to. This is where I want your opinions. I want you to tell me why I'm wrong. Why am I wrong about these picks? We're going to go through each team. I want you guys to be more informed about the storylines, the significance of these teams, and where I'm putting them. Let's start with the Maestros, okay? Listen, it goes without saying they're at the top. VK Sale and Leoro, they were at the top as of the end of last season. They confirmed that this season. They did experience one loss against Decimate, but that was before they moved to Africa to play on ping. On good ping, this team has showcased so far that they're unstoppable. They have had only one game lost to Dunno Chief when they 4-1 them. Otherwise, it was sweeps. Clearly top of the line. Limitless and almost getting perfect swept by the Maestros find themselves in the S tier. They are still showing off that they can make it to the championship final. This is Snowy, who has been on the best team in this region since the beginning of RLCS SSA, accompanied with To Die For and Sweaty, who I will say Sweaty, the MVP of his championship Sunday, defeating Hey with Riz and coming out to be one of the most creative and impressive players, both on offense and defense. I do want to see how that storyline grows, but as of the first event, Sweaty really on the come up for that team, not just the kind of third player that was added to this team to keep them on top. Hey with Riz showcased a ton of dominance this first event. They swept their way through the Swiss. They did experience a loss versus Cosmico, and you might be wondering, okay, why is Cosmico in A tier? I'll talk about that shortly, but the losses against Cosmico and Limitless were Hayes' only losses, only 2 losses in this event. Otherwise had a lot of sweeps, showed a lot of dominance, swept Mustufluck, who a lot of people thought would be top 3 in the region, and just showcased a lot of brilliance. And by the way, we're a Game 7 overtime away from beating Limitless. So you got to consider that. Now let's go down to the A tier, because I feel like those 3 teams deserve their own tier. We're going to start off with the custom Rocket League logo Ball Eater. By the way, if you're on a team or you're thinking of a team like maybe Haiba or Chaka Ranilla, and saying, hey, where are they? Well, they don't have logos, guys. Get your logos, and I'll put you on the power rankings. Please get your logo. This team, Ball Eater, does not have a logo, but they have to go in A tier because, well, they got top 4. This team of Ball Eater is accompanied by Chester, somebody I talked to in an interview at a certain point in the broadcast, and he said, well, you know what? I just let Mira and Q-Tips do what they do best, which is ball chase. That's kind of why they're Ball Eater. They're ball chasers. Q-Tips is on 220 ping in these games from, I think it's Finland maybe, somewhere in Scandinavia. The point is their ping is outrageous. They're just chasing the ball, and they do it quite well. Chester and Mira even have this RLCS EU top 32 experience under the belt from last season, and they're bringing that in the way of SSA. Cosmico, they're not S tier, even though they took Limitless to Game 6 overtime, even though they did defeat Hey with Riz. Instead of sporting just 2 losses, Cosmico suffered 5 losses in this first event, and I think that chips them down to A. But I do want to say this: Wordy, Guns, Cam, these are 3 incredible South African players. These 3 have the ability to show off and get to S tier. I think the potential is absolutely there. These are grinders. These are quote unquote next up. When you consider who's next after Limitless in this region, you got to look at Cosmico. You got to look at these guys. There's a reason To Die For teamed up with Guns in the offseason 2v2 tournaments. There's a reason that Wardy has already made his way to a world showing. There's a reason Cam's always on the second best SSA team. Cosmico have what it takes, but they're not going to be S tier until they beat Limitless. You guys got to get that win. Moving on, you've got Dunno Chief and Mustufluck. Dunno Chief had to forfeit in their championship Sunday because they had someone sick. So kind of, I can't really put them in S tier before I see them on championship Sunday competing under that pressure. Mustufluck was supposed to be top 3, but suffered that sweep against Hey with Riz in the first playoff appearance. Mustufluck start out this event with a sweep against Limitless. They swept Limitless at the start of open number 1. But then kind of fell off afterwards. Lost to Limitless in the GSL stage, and then couldn't quite come up to par. So that's kind of storyline for your A-tier teams. A lot of them have the potential to get to that S tier, but just didn't prove that in the first event. Now you get into B tier where where do we start? We're starting off with Cristobal. Cristobal, for a few reasons, impressed me, and that's why they've gotten to this stage. They did sweep Genesix, and a lot of people are going to wonder, why is Genesix in B tier? They made top 8. How do you have them down in the B tier? We'll get to that. But Cristobal impressed me. Their losses, I felt like, were of very high caliber teams, and so that's kind of why I have them down there. So Spanish team, but top of the B tier, along with two ones mains. This is a Dutch, an Irishman, and an Englishman. They had a sweep over Decimate in their run and also lost to some very impressive teams in the GSL stage. That's kind of why I have them here. But I do need to see another event. Listen, it's really, really, really difficult when you don't have a ton of gameplay resources to see these teams and you just have results. So this is kind of what I've seen from these teams. I kind of think both these teams could surprise in future events. So that's why I have them here. Now Decimate and Genesix. Decimate is a team I'm really excited about. Wheelu and Zany are two players from this SSA region that I've watched very closely for a very long time. Well, Wheelu for a very long time. Zany more short term, but I had him compete in some 2v2 mix-ups this past off season, and he looks very good, especially with Wheelu. I do think this team can take it far. They did hand the Maestros their first loss, but that was when the Maestros had high ping, but that's still very impactful. And Decimate sadly did not make top 8, but they have the ability to do that. Again, we're talking about potential. That's why I have these teams here. Decimate also defeated Genesix in Swiss, so that's why I have them above them. And they had some tough draws playing Dunno Chief and Must Do Fluck. They could be top 8. Genesix, why do I have you in the B tier? Well, to me, it's about how you look against the top teams. Genesix got experience against the top teams, and unfortunately for me, did not hold the candle to them in the way that I need to see them hold a candle to them to be in the A tier. You might be thinking, Pyro, what are you talking about? Genesix took 2 games off of, was it Dunno Chief in the, it was Ball Eater in the playoffs. I'd say that's holding a candle to them, is it not? Well, if you look at that series very closely, yes, the first half of the series, they looked incredible. Their defense, especially from Declan, was unbelievable. But the second half looked tired. The second half, they didn't quite play up to par of Ball Eater and the way that I need to see Genesix competing to be an A-tier team. They also barely got through Swiss. Like, we need to talk about the fact that Genesix won 2 Game 5s in round 4 and round 5 of Swiss to even make the top 16. That wasn't incredibly promising to me. They were a little too close to not making top 16 for me. And I know that also shows off the clutch factor, but it did really, really scare me. They got stomped by the Maestros in GSL stage. 2 of their losses were 10-2 and 8-2. I get it. Sometimes you lose a game and it gets out, it kind of runs over and over and over and you start conceding goals and whatever. But you've got to take those games closer. You just have to, in my mind, to be an S or an A tier team for Genesix. You can't just get annihilated, purely annihilated by the Maestros, no matter how good they are. So again, this team is very promising. Like that first half playoff match against Ball Eater did really look promising. And Genesix, when they look good, look great, but just inconsistent. Just inconsistent against top teams, a little underwhelming. So that's why I have them in the B tier. I'm going to quickly ramble off the last of these teams because I've talked for so long. But you have these 3 squads who really, to me, looked incredible. This is your North Africa and Middle Eastern team. Ashanik and 77 Blocks barely missed out on top 16, but they had extremely tough competition to get there and are also two teams that were like top 8, even better shoo-ins from the last season. So I'm expecting more from them in open number 2. I really, really am. Astronik had losses against Limitless and Dunno Chief. 77 Blocks lost to Hay, Maestros, and a Game 5 against Genesix. They could very well be higher in this B tier. We have to see. Trifecta is a team I'm excited about. Keep at it, Eliakim. I want to see you guys play better and better. White Rabbit Gaming, Bird, Unity, Pony no Jitsu. Unity, you could probably be in D tier with Pony no Jitsu because you failed to get a win in Swiss stage. White Rabbit Gaming did get a sweep over Bird. That's why I have them a little ahead of them. Trifecta did make top 16 while the rest of these teams did not. I need more than an open to see these guys compete, perform. I have them on here because these are incredible SSA players. But there's also SSA players that don't have logos for their teams. I couldn't put them up here, so I have to talk about them very briefly here. First one is going to be Chaka Vanilla. That's Tristan, Nitro, and Zyro. Don't forget Nitro and Zyro, that duo that was with Reverse Oreo, who made a top 8 late in the last season. They have what it takes to surprise. Haiba is this team that people can't stop talking about. Skill Steel, we spoke about him, is now teamed up with Devour and Ravi, who's, when you combine their ages of 14 each, equate to Skill Steel's age of 28. They had some extremely clutch wins to make top 16. I want to see how far they can go. Really excited about this team. Goated Baguette, where are you? Ram. We need to see Ram at a bigger stage. I can't wait to see what they do in Open 2. Willant, I've seen a little bit in some 1v1 events, and Onizuma, I don't know much of. So I'm excited to see more of this team when I get the chance. But that's all I got. Those are your power rankings. Keep an eye out for updated power rankings and predictions as well for Open number 2 as we get to that next week. Keep an eye out for a new video coming out breaking down that grand final between Limitless and the Maestros. I have a lot to talk about there and what Limitless can do to eventually defeat the Maestros and represent SSA at the major. But that is all I got. It's been over 20 minutes. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.